So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Mr. Mills. There you are.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
We have a couple of items today. The first one starts off with unfinished business with Party Down LLC. They are applying for events held at the Bryant Conference Center, special retail more than 30 days. This one was tabled on August 27th.
Why was it tabled?
Yeah, what was the deal with that?
Was it, did anything, is that not the right license, or was there something?
This is the right license. The contract that they had with the UA, it had to wait until a certain date before it could actually go into effect, and they couldn't have had a license before the contract was signed.
Okay.
All right. That's that one. The second one I have is Kaizen Corporation, DBA Rollmark. They're applying for a retail beer off-premise only, retail table wine off-premise only, located at 1500 McFarland Boulevard East.
That's the store, right?
Yeah.
That's the store, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's the old Wyatt's place. That's
Yes, sir.
on the corner of
Mm-hmm.
15th and McFarland. That's.
Oh, somebody's,
Yep.
okay.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. You're doing a good job.
He doesn't own it now.
Somebody else owns it.
But
Is that what he's been calling?
Yeah,
All right.
I just don't see there being.
they're putting a convenience store there. I met with them yesterday.
Okay.
Really?
They've got about 7 in Tuscaloosa, but
They sure do.
they're not gonna do all those lights and all that stuff.
They didn't get a deal if they called Charles.
No, I said I met with them yesterday.
Oh.
All right. My next application is Alabama Wildlife Federation, DBA the Wild Game Cook-Off. This is the third event they're having. This is for the nonprofit. Again, they're basically letting us know they're having this event in Tuscaloosa, 6025 Watermelon Road Boulevard.
What is that?
Sir?
6025 Watermelon Road, is that a facility or?
Circle Park.
What?
Oak Park.
Oh, okay.
Let's go get some wild games.
Yeah, that's it.
Some coon.
Home of the Gauntlet?
Neil will be there.
No, because that's North, you're not in Northport.
That's at the venue, is that at the venue?
No.
No, Circle Park.
Circle Park, yes,
Oh,
sir.
it's Circle Park.
Uh-huh.
Stan Akers
It's a
Park
big
is
park
Circle
in your district.
That's Stan Akers Park.
All right, my next application will be game day events. It will be for downtown entertainment. Well, I'm sorry. Next first one I have is Party Down LLC. They're applying for special retail less than 7 days for the DKE South Carolina Alumni Tailgate, Culver House, Missouri Tailgate. We have the DKE Missouri Alumni Tailgate, the DKE Mercer Alumni Tailgate, and the DKE Auburn Alumni Tailgate.
Are these spread over like 2 months or something?
So you got the, let's go back, I'm sorry. We got for several games, so you got the South Carolina game, and then you got Missouri and Mercer and Auburn. So these are the ones coming up for October and November.
Yeah, and so my question was, is that spread over 2 months?
Yes, sir.
October, November?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And we don't typically see that, do we?
Yes, sir, we do.
We do?
Mhm.
Deke Mercer. That ought to be a big crowd.
So I have also Downtown Entertainment. They're applying for 2 events as well. They have can't get my slide, I'm sorry. Phi Delta Gamma Game Day, Phi Delta Game Day Alumni Bar for 9/28/24. And they have the Brotherhood Parent Cookout Game Day event. That one's located at 511 Jefferson Avenue. And then I'll have, also tonight we have JNS Bartending LLC. They're applying for Kentucky Festival of Arts 2024, special retail less than 7 days at 1000 Hargrove Road East. And then just a reminder, we also have coming back up, we have the expansion for Rhythm and Brews as well.
The what,
We have the
extension or
expansion.
Expansion.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thanks, Donnie. Zach?
Good afternoon. We have one rezoning for you guys tonight. This is a petition to rezone about 0.66 acres located at 927 Kicker Road, and this is from BGO to RA2. This is Council District 5. So this is the vicinity, but I'll get a little bit closer in. So you can see BGO, little strip there, industrial on the left-hand side, and then RA2, which is what they're wanting to go to on that right-hand side. This is the location. So as you're driving north on Kicker Road, you're going to hit University, that bridge on University. Are you familiar, Mr. Tyner?
Yeah, but
trying to get your
But,
bearings.
but isn't that where they just did, didn't we just do those for those little apartments there already?
So they went to Planning and Zoning Commission, and now they're coming to you guys. for
Okay,
final
is this
approval.
8 of them, isn't it 8?
It's Brandon Clark, Mike
Yeah.
Hicks. Yeah, you probably met with them regarding this.
I really liked what I saw, but is that,
Yeah, and that's what they're doing. So this is how it looks today, and I'll show you a site plan. They're going to a townhome development.
they're still having the garages in the back?
Yes, sir. So garage is located in the rear, and then there's some additional parking on that. North is facing to your left, so on that south side, there'll be some additional parking. 11 townhomes, 3 bedrooms
It's
each.
11, okay.
This is what they might look like. The rendering showing what they're going to look like.
So I like what they did because they were, one change they made, they want, instead of backing out into Kicker Road, they'll have the carport, they can come out front.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so it doesn't conform to framework. We identified this as commercial, limited commercial, because it was BGO, currently zoned BGO. But you do have RA2, which is what they're proposing to go to in this area. And then these are the permitted uses within that zoning district. You have any questions for me?
I really was impressed with what they had
Yes, sir.
for that space. Okay, Mayor Maddox.
I don't have anything, and I don't believe we have any items for executive session.
Wow, excellent. Okay, any department comments or announcements from anybody else for Scott? Comes up. Okay, Mr. Holmes.
If anybody needs to use the restroom, you should probably go now before we start in. I think this is my first 5-page agenda. I am at the bottom of page 2, where on page 24, you'll be authorizing the purchase of equipment, supplies, or services for the river market, repairs and maintenance. This is a total of $7,871.60. On page 25, you'll be authorizing the purchase of equipment, supplies, or services from Diamond Golf Cars. This is a total of $11,371.10. Those are both budgeted purchases that are coming from purchasing. As well as on page 26, you'll be authorizing the purchase of equipment, supplies, or services from Stivers Ford Lincoln. This is a total of $24,652. Again, this is a previously budgeted purchase. On page 27, you'll be authorizing the acceptance of donations to the Human Trafficking Task Force. This comes to us from the Tuscaloosa Police Department. On page 28, you'll be authorizing the execution of a work authorization for Atkins North America to provide design phase professional services for the terminal improvements project at the Tuscaloosa National Airport. This is a total not to exceed $427,000 and came to you in projects last week.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what type of donations?
They were monetary donations that individuals made. We have to do a resolution actually accepting them, and then accounting and finance has to actually budget and account for them.
Thank you.
There were $100 and $200 here and there. I think the total was less than $1,000 just from individuals. On page 29 and 30, you'll be authorizing a contract with Axon Enterprises, Inc. and declaring a bid law exemption pursuant to Alabama Code 41-1651A-15 and authorizing the termination of existing contracts with Axon Enterprises. This comes to you from the police department. On page 31, you'll be authorizing renewal of the city engineer's professional liability insurance coverage with QBE Specialty Insurance Company. This is for 2024 and 25 and a total of $20,038, and this came to you in finance last week. On page 32, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Waterfront Solutions LLC for a total of $28,000, and again came to you in projects last week. On page 33, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the minor public works contract with Pruitt Communications, Inc. For FY24 as needed fire alarm maintenance. This is amended total compensation of $14,000 and came to you in projects last week. On page 34, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the minor public works contract with Bay Pest Control for FY24 as needed pest control. This is a total amended compensation of $50,000 and came to you in projects last week. On page 35, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the minor public works contract with Paints on Us for as needed carpentry and painting services. This is a total amended compensation of $70,000 and came to you in projects last week. On page 36, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the minor public works contract with Taylor Electrical Contractors for as needed electrical services. This is a total compensation of $14,100 and came to you in projects last week. On page 37, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the contract with ACE Services of Alabama for as needed fire extinguisher inspection services. This is a total compensation of $10,421 and again came to you in projects last week. On page 38, you'll be authorizing amendment number 2 to the as needed chiller maintenance contract with Dankin Applied Americas, Inc. This is a total compensation of $55,850.85 and again came to you in projects last week. On page 39, you'll be authorizing a payment to the Alabama Department of Transportation for the buyout of FHWA grant related to the Queen City Bathhouse. This is a total of $390,000 and it was discussed in finance last week. On page 40 and 42, you'll be authorizing the appropriation of certain opioid settlement funds to the Phoenix House. This is a total of $150,000 and is doubled up and will be on the Finance Committee agenda today. On page 43 and 45, you'll be authorizing the appropriation of certain opioid settlement funds to Freedom Farm, Inc. This is a total of $250,000 and again is doubled up and will be on finance today. On page 46, you'll be authorizing submission of the final grant application with ALDOT for the terminal improvement project. This was discussed in projects last week. On page 47, you'll be authorizing an airport's capital improvements plan pre-application submission regarding the Tuscaloosa National Airport to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Alabama Department of Transportation for the 2025 Airport Improvements Program. This again was in projects last week. On page 48, you'll be authorizing an agreement with Crimson Charge LLC. This was discussed in projects last week. On page 49, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way permit to Charles Sperlin. This was in projects last week. On page 50, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way permit to Lauren Blackwood. Again, that was discussed in finance last week. On page 51 and 52, you'll be establishing fiscal year 2025 general fund reserve for future improvements budget. This was discussed in finance last week, I believe. On page 53 and 54, you'll be establishing fiscal year 2025 water sewer reserve for future improvements fund budget. Again, that was discussed in finance last week. On page 55 through 57, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute agency funding contracts for 2025. Again, this came to you in Finance Committee last week. On page 58, you'll be authorizing expenditure capability for the general fund facility renewal for FY 2025. Again, this came to you in Finance Committee. On page 59, you'll be authorizing expenditure capability for water and sewer facility renewal for 2025. Again, this came to you in Finance Committee. On page 60 through 61, you'll be adopting Amendment 5 to the Water and Sewer Reserve for Future Improvement Funds budget. That came to you in Finance Committee last week. On page 62 through 70, you'll be amending various chapters of the Code of Tuscaloosa. This was presented in Finance Committee last week. This is the streamlining the CPI adjustments. On page 71, you'll be suspending pay plan step raises to include one step for fiscal year 2025 and amending section 1942 Exhibit D of the city's pay plan. This was discussed in finance last week. On page 72 through 73, you'll be amending section 16-90 and 16-151 regarding solid waste collection and service charges. That again is on finance. On page 74 and 76, you'll be adopting general fund budget for FY 2025, and that is, I believe, doubled up for finance today. On page 77 through 78, you'll be establishing the 2025 Elevate Tuscaloosa Fund budget. Again, that is doubled up and on finance today. On page 79 through 80, you'll be adopting the Water and Sewer Fund budget for FY 25. Again, that one is doubled up, I believe, on finance today. And page 81, you'll be adopting amendment number 3 to the fiscal year 2024 Water and Sewer Fund budget, and I believe that was discussed in finance on last week. That is all I have for the agenda. Are there any questions for me?
No, Mr. Holmes, but I did ask Ms. Almond and Mr. Parsons if they would stay, because the item that we'll have on the council tonight concerning the expansion of the occupancy for Rhythm and Brews has gone through a lot of changes, I guess you'd say, or a change of mind as far as I'm concerned, because I fully didn't understand it until I met with Chief Blankley and myself and Mr. Holmes with Mr. Parsons and Ms. Almond and their staff of Rhythm and Brews, and feel comfortable with it now. But if anybody on the council have any questions that they'd like to ask these two before we have the public hearing tonight, or is concerning Rhythm and Brews,
Mr. President, I was not here last Tuesday, so what?
or how we got to where we got to.
Yes, sir, but what are we basically being asked to vote on again tonight after all these conversations?
Well, so fortunately, you didn't miss anything last week because all we did was set it for public hearing last week.
Okay.
What they are asking this council to vote on is to approve their expansion of their occupancy to a total of 413 persons, and y'all correct me if I have that wrong.
Correct.
It could have been 513.
And do we have
So the
the,
compromise really was.
The compromise was
PPD.
before 13.
So I know there was some back and forth about some things 2 weeks ago. I think we had that meeting.
Yes.
Our stance was basically, could this be done without the expansion? Because when everything came and said, hey, with the expansion, we did not want to increase occupancy based on the expansion. We learned, was last week we had the meeting, with their current square footage, they could build those bathrooms and the money they spent on the expansion in their existing space to get to that occupancy. The PD stance is, while they're advertising they are a bar. They're not advertising they're anything else to turn into a bar. They're a current bar, we're not opening a new bar. So we understand the occupancy based on, hey, you could do this with your existing square footage. We've talked to them and said that if the council does go and allow this occupancy for that, they'll be watched very closely as far as not going over, and they understand that.
Thank you.
So our big thing is it's not a new bar coming in, it's existing, and they could have done the renovations without the new space and got to this square footage under today's standards, and we understand that. 2 weeks ago when we had the meeting, there was confusion, I think, on both sides of kind of what could they do, could they not do with the architect, because it was actually the toilets that came up as an issue, not the square footage. So like I said, we've talked to them. They know that, hey, this is a hard occupancy. If y'all grant that, we told them absolutely it's y'all's decision, not ours. But they're an existing bar. Say they're a bar. It's not something else. They know I'm going to be this and then turn into a bar. So that's our stance on that.
so from a standpoint of manageability with TPD, that 413 is manageable?
Yeah, we'll do the best we can with everything. Our thing is they could get 500 or 600 in that space. We do like the fact that, hey, look, they're working with us saying, hey, we only want this amount with that expansion, and ultimately that's up to y'all. It will cut down the lines outside of that area. They're the only ones in that area that have a large line, and they're holding it because they're staying at the what's the number right now? 230, 240, and so that. So we think we can manage it. It's going to be a hard number. And we've already told them that, hey, we will be checking. It cannot go over this number or anything like that. But our concern was, in the beginning, we said, hey, look, we're not doing an expansion. We're not going to give you more occupancy than you can hold. But under today's standards, we understand that, hey, you could have done the same thing in that space.
Okay.
I do want to clarify one thing, and I know they're on the same page, but there may be other folks watching at home. If they hadn't have bought the new suite and they had built additional bathrooms in their current suite, then that would have, based upon their pinch point being the building and plumbing code, would have allowed them to add additional occupancy. They would have still had to come back through this process, and it would still be through this council. So I don't want anybody sitting home to think they can add some bathrooms and not have to come talk to anybody. It still comes through this process.
Yeah, and I also really appreciate what Chief said to them that day, that except for one very small minor incident, you've had really great cooperation with them through the years.
That's good.
Yeah, I just wanna, first of all, we were having this conversation yesterday, Raven, and I don't know if y'all can hear me or not.
How you get to go to the mic, please?
Maybe you're on TV.
Great. So yesterday, we were having this conversation, Raven, about, the part-time job that's a full-time job, right? City council members but we really appreciate those of you who've taken time to either go to the bar and look at it, several of you've done, or speak, at my office or with Cynthia or the other folks, because we really do appreciate how much the demand is on y'all up here. And for you to take the time and then come meet with people, to me, that's special. And I want to thank you. And I can't say it any better than what Chief and Council did. The building, as it's presently built out, would accommodate 513 people. And so some time ago, talking with someone, we were fishing around looking for maybe something more palatable. And so the concept came up with 413, which took out the additional capacity that the newly acquired space. So that's it. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's been when it works very well, I think, from where we started to where we are right now. And especially you two, we didn't have to worry about the other person.
Yeah, we're out.
I said it.
Thank y'all.
See y'all.
Thank y'all.
Okay, Mayor, I've already asked you, right? Okay, we have project, thank you guys.
Bye.
Projects, finance, admin, community development, personnel board meets tomorrow. The 19th on Thursday. No council committee meetings due to the special tax referendum, next Tuesday. And then, we will meet at 12 o'clock on Tuesday, October 1st. For the election canvassing. Okay. Any other comments, communications?
How long do we think that 12-name meeting?
About 15 minutes, probably. Right?
Not 2 or 3 hours.
No. Yep. Just that.
It'll be up
Just
there,
know
city
that
clerk. I
They'll
suspect.
open all 7 ballot boxes, I guess. Right? Read all 7 ballots.
Hope we get a good challenge going.
Hey, let me tell you something. It could happen.
Storm the chambers, trying to overturn the result.
It could happen. And Chief, best of luck to you since President Trump's coming back to town. I know that's going to be a lot of fun for the TPD.
Oh my.
Another presidential visit. Okay, is there a motion we go? Is there? I think it's good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All good side. Meeting.